going to our not the last and not the least, the last but not the least element over here. We have none other than Mr. David Byron here. You have an amazing setting there, Mr. Byron, and even I am going to look forward to what you're going to mix and trying to see whether I can build something of it. So, as we go forward, do you want to quickly, not quickly, introduce yourself, and apart from cocktail, what do you do for fun, Dave?
Sure. Making sure I'm on. Can you hear me here? I got my earbuds playing.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, so at Sundberg-Ferar, I've been here for almost 8 years now, and I came into Detroit as a car designer. I never even visited Detroit. I literally packed up my Trans Am and drove to Detroit and got into CCS, and that was the dream. And lived the dream, got to design cars for a while. I love cars, but I love designing, and that's just the passion for all kinds of design is what brought me to Sundberg-Ferar. And over the last few years, really gotten in focused on innovation strategy, which was been discussed today, and really identifying the right needs before you put all your power of R&D work, and before you even pick up a pencil and start sketching, are you even solving a real problem? So that's a kind of quick highlight on SF. For fun, I love to mountain bike. I love to make cocktails. Don't do them at the same time.
And you also love hockey, right?
Yes, played hockey. I actually designed a Warrior helmet and was able to hang out with the Red Wings and meet Zetterberg and literally go into the locker room and fit him with his custom helmet he wore the last couple seasons before he retired. And there's plenty of players in the NHL that wear the helmet I worked on back.
And you
before.
also play guitar too. What is something else you don't do?
I just don't have enough time for all the hobbies that I've picked up over the years. I played bass for 20 years now, and that's and then I have a kid, and all your other hobbies that take hours and hours and hours of practice start to be reduced, and so cocktailing after the kid goes to bed is definitely an easy hobby.
Well, that hobby is going to change for us, our young parents, because now we have to. Our new hobby is trying to understand what is virtual remote learning education is. So all the best for all of us. We are already in a week over there, and already it's going to be a tremendous journey. So I think our audience is waiting for you to start beginning your magic. So the stage is all yours, Dave.
Well, I'm going to just screen share here real quick because I did kind of want to just obviously entertain a little bit, but I did want to kind of just talk about how to not be intimidated by making cocktails and make this a little informational session for everybody. I think when we go to a restaurant and you see 5, 6, 7 ingredients, it can be a little intimidating. Nobody at home, not many people at home are making them. I have never worked in a restaurant. I have never professionally bartended. And so all of my experience is really strictly just trial and error. And so I've, gotten on some blogs, and, as any enthusiast does, you start to read a little bit, and then I take pictures. I'm that guy who gets the menu at the restaurant or bar, and I'm taking pictures of all the ingredients. And so what I wanted to do is just kind of give everybody some tips and then show you some examples of how really easy you can do this at home. And it starts with the golden ratio. So when you're thinking about a cocktail and you want to make something that's more than just a mixer is a Jack and Coke. Or a Sprite and vodka. If you're just mixing one alcohol and one other ingredient, they just call it a mixer. But as soon as you go to 3 ingredients, then it's a cocktail. And the golden ratio of 2-1-1 is kind of shown here, that you really always want to have this 50-50 relationship. 50% of it is your main liquor, and the other 50% are the other ingredients that you're building. And as long as you keep that ratio, it won't be bad. And I'm going to show you some examples too. And so the 2-1-1 is that the other parts are generally an equal sweet and an equal sour, or maybe a bitter, and I'll talk about some of those examples. But you want a sweet and a bitter, and there's many examples here of what those are. So just talking about the liquors, obviously we all know them: the whiskey, tequila, rum, vodka, gin, brandy. Those are your main ones. And then you get into the sweet. So what is that first sweet component? And the complement to most cocktails is some type of sugar or a liqueur. And so a sugar would be basically just simple syrup, which is 1 part sugar, 1 part water. So it's diluted as a syrup. Or you could use honey. You could just scoop in some granulated sugar, like in a mojito. You see them pouring some granulated sugar because they're going to muddle it up with the mint leaves. I'm going to show you that today. Then you can also add triple sec, which is an orange flavored liqueur. Getting into the liqueurs, yeah, sweet vermouth. You think of a Manhattan. All the creams that are out there. So whether it's a Bailey's or, I've got some liqueur examples here. So this is an elderflower liqueur. You might see a real expensive brand that's familiar on a lot of bar shelves, which is Saint Germain. So it has an elderflower to it, but it's mainly the sweetener. This is a ginger sweetener. So this is not the base. This is the complement, and it's usually 1 part. Another one that gets more a little bit into the bitter side. If you look up to the sour or bitter, that's where you're going to introduce a citrus or some liqueurs that are also considered on that side, which is a Campari is a bitter Italian. And so I know one of my favorites here, if you like spicy stuff, there's actually one here, Givak, that's made out of poblano peppers.
Wow.
Yeah, so again, it's actually pretty high in alcohol, but it's also very sweet. This one has a pepper flavor to it, so it's great to throw into a margarita. So I might do that with you today.
So Dave, I have a very naive question. You know my knowledge in this area. When you say 2-1-1, apart from this will be the ice cubes and all those things?
Yeah, exactly. And so then you start to learn the nuances of should it actually be served with ice or not. All of that is just personal preference, and cocktail snobs would say there are distinct rules. There are not. I will kind of explain a couple rules, but really, yeah, the ingredients you're adding to the ice. And when I say 2-1-1, you might see in a recipe, it's say 1 ounce or 1.5 ounce or 2 ounce. It really doesn't matter. And this is why it's not that complicated. You just take whatever measuring device you have. So this is a traditional jigger here with 2 different sizes on it. This one happens to be 1.5 ounces and 3/4 of an ounce, but it doesn't matter. So if it's 2-1-1, I'm going to do 2 fills of this with the whiskey or the tequila, and I'm going to do 1 fill of this with, let's say, a sweet vermouth, and then 1 fill of this with lemon juice. So that's where the 2-1-1 comes from. Now, as long as you do that, again, you won't make a bad cocktail. You could pick any of the ingredients I put on here and literally mix any of them together in that ratio, and it will be good. You won't mess it up. So there are riffs on that, though. So if you're going to use something super potent, like a bitters, okay, so this is a bitters here. Fee Brothers is a great brand that makes a ton. Then you're not going to fill a whole piece of this with bitters. You're actually going to only use a dash. So I'm saying half. And if you're somebody who just doesn't like that much citrus, you might take the citrus and only do a half of this. But it's very easy. I mean, you can see when you fill this up halfway, stop at the lime juice and dump it in, and you're done. And then some like a little less boozy cocktail, and you want to use soda or juice as the other side. So on the other side, you might go 2-2 halves. So now you're just going to do a little spritz of lime juice, and then you might use a soda or something like that as your complementary element. But again, don't really pass the 50-50 mark and you're good. Now, if you want to start adding in club soda or tonic water, other things like that to dilute it, that's really kind of how strong do you like your cocktail. So that's what I just was going to share that here, and then I'm going to stop sharing here so I can go back full screen.
That was helpful to actually see a visual of the partitions of bitters and sweet and liquor.
see, I've got too many things open.
There is a pop-up coming which says you have to save it or not. I think you might have to click that before.
I've got too many things open at one time.
It's the liquor part. I think you're using a stronger cocktail right now.
Okay. All right, so we're back to full screen here.
Yeah.
So just to kind of give an example then of how you build cocktails is that as long as you start with what I just showed you, and that's 3 ingredients, then you can start to get more complicated, but you start with that exact ratio or that mix right there. You can vary, like I said, you can vary those 1 parts, maybe half part, maybe it's a dash if it's something super strong. But then you want to add citrus, you want to add berries, you want to add a garnish like mint, you want to add rosemary to it. You can add all those things on top of it if you're just kind of giving a little hint of it, and it won't throw your ratio off. So just kind of, again, just thinking about ratios. So one of the things I thought about doing here was my special cocktail for today is going to be called Sweet September. And I'm calling it Sweet September because we kind of are leaving summer, right? We're just coming out of the summer transition and we're just about to hit into fall. So I'm going to now riff on what is a classic cocktail, and I'm going to add something to it. So a classic cocktail is a Manhattan. Most people have heard of a Manhattan, and that is a whiskey, a sweet vermouth, and a bitter. So instead of using whiskey, though, you can swap that to another dark liquor. So I'm going to use rum instead. So it would be called a rum Manhattan. If you ordered or told anybody you're having a rum Manhattan, they would know what to do. And so one of the things to talk about too is whether you shake it or whether you stir it. So the rule of thumb is that if you are adding citrus, just simple rule, if you add citrus to the cocktail, if you're squeezing some lemon juice or a lime in there, then you shake the cocktail. I mean, I know there are variances on this, but basic rule of thumb, if you're adding juice or citrus, you shake. If the drink is majority booze, meaning it's the rum and the sweet vermouth as your main ingredients, then you just stir it, okay? So you're not shaking it, you're not diluting it as much, you're not getting the juices because you don't have juice in it, you don't need to mix them in there. So that's kind of the rule of thumb. So
that's where Mr. James Bond always orders shaken, not stirred kind of a thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like a nuance to him that, you know, he I think the James Bond is with an onion. It's a martini with an onion in it, and to say shaken in that kind of a martini really just gets it a little bit more diluted and colder, maybe because you're diluting it a little bit. Okay, so I've got the ice here in my stir. I'm going to start with a rum here. I love Plantation brand. They make a ton of rums from all over the Caribbean down to South America. So if you look at Plantation, you find it's really well priced. This bottle is their new Jamaican only, and it's $28. It's really fantastic. So I'm going to go 2 parts. So just like we were talking about, the 2 parts here. And this is a nice vermouth and not the most expensive, but this is a good brand here if anybody's looking for Cochi. Cochi makes a whole bunch of aperitifs and vermouths, and they're all really good and well priced. A really nice vermouth could be $36. This bottle here is $20. It's going to be much better than your $7 bottles, but there's nothing against those. I use them too, so I'm not saying don't get a $7 bottle of vermouth. Everything has its place.
What is that utensil called, Dave, again?
What was that?
What is that utensil called in your hand?
I mean, it's just your measuring, but they call it a jigger.
Okay.
Okay, so there's my 2 main ingredients for Manhattan with some bitters. This is not old-fashioned bitters, but this is molasses bitters because I'm going with rum. I want a little bit of Caribbean flavor, so I'm going to put a couple dashes in there. And then we stir it up. So you get a little spoon, and we're just going to sit here and so the part now where it's going to sort of change. One, obviously, we changed it to a rum Manhattan from a regular whiskey Manhattan, or a rye Manhattan, as most people would order it. Is that I'm going to add a little smoky scotch to it. And this is why it's Sweet September. So we're moving into fall, and we're taking the rum flavors, and that's the base of our cocktail. It's ready to go. But I'm going to do what's called a floater, and I'm just going to take a little Laphroaig, which is a really strong peaty scotch, and I'm just going to put a little bit on the top. You just want to do a light little pour, and you're going to smell it a lot because it's going to be right on the top, and it's going to add smoke to it. So it's got the sweetness from the rum. It's got the smokiness, kind of, you know, sitting around having bonfires in the fall, getting into that. And then I got to get, one second, I got to grab something out of the kitchen.
No problem. I'm glad I'm not, I cannot reach out to those glasses and cups. I wish I was. I will mess something up over there. I like the BBO glass, your mug in the back. The BBO.
Oh yeah, the BBA. Yeah, it's
BBA,
actually
sorry.
it's now holding a succulent.
Oh,
so
okay.
He looks like he's got hair.
I like it.
Hey. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to, Manhattan traditionally has a cherry on it. So I've got some of our best Michigan-made. Luxardo makes most, but these are, anybody that hasn't tried, Traverse City. Traverse City Whiskey makes their own cocktail cherries. So we're going to put that on there. And to add a little bit of that fall flavor, and I always love to bust out my torch. If you don't have a torch, you should get one. I mean, even if you're just, you know, searing the fatty parts of your steak, or you know, making some desserts, and you want to get a little bit of that caramelized sugar on top, you should have it. But it's awesome for cocktails too. So we're gonna take the cherry here, and we're just gonna caramelize the outside a little bit.
Wow.
So we caramelize the outside. Gives a nice little candy coating to it. And then we're going to take some rosemary, because who doesn't love a little burnt rosemary? And we're just going to burn that up a little bit, get a little smoke going. And there is a sweet September.
Awesome. Cheers.
I should taste it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Dave, you don't drop the burnt rosemary inside?
Not that one. There are some where you might throw it in, but actually what I love to do with rosemary is, and this is where you get fancy, is you could just have regular sugar, but I like to take honey and simmer it and throw a stick of rosemary in the honey. 1 part water, 1 part honey to make your honey syrup. And then throw the rosemary in for 5 minutes, simmer it in a pan, and then put that in a jar, and you'll save that. So I have it. I have just some honey syrup here. I didn't put the rosemary in this one, but this is just the honey syrup. So let's do it. So that's a really heavy cocktail. Let's do another one where we do some muddling. So this time we're going to use our shaker here, and I'm going to grab some raspberries. I love raspberries. And mint. And so what should we do this time? I think I'm going to grab down in here in my master collection here.
So also you mentioned about the peppers earlier. When you actually want to add that, you also try to roast them?
No, this one is just a pre-made liqueur. That's just a pepper one. I'm not making it myself.
Okay.
So we're gonna go with tequila with this. So you could take mint and and raspberries, and you could literally make it with gin or vodka. Because I'm going to muddle it, I'm just going to put some regular sugar in here. And then I like to have some citrus to cut it. So if you think about a mojito is basically these same ingredients, mint, granulated sugar, and rum, and you're kind of taking and lime juice, and you're just mixing it. You know, those ratios can always be there. So I'm doing lime juice here, and I kind of generally just do a half a lime for any cocktail. It's a good amount. If it's a dry lime and you don't get much juice out of it, you might need to use the whole thing. But now think about it. So we've got mint and lime, always goes together. We've got raspberry and some sugar in here to sweeten it up. We're going to muddle it all together. And again, at this point now, you could use any spirit. So I'm going to use tequila here. You could use a vodka, a gin, but probably a lighter. Not, I mean, actually, this wouldn't be bad with a whiskey. But so now I'm using the cap actually on the shaker. You know, 2 parts. It doesn't really matter. Maybe if you like it a little stronger, you're going to share it with a couple people. Put 4 in here, so you know, two pours per person. So I'm going to do 2.5. Put a bunch of ice in here. One of my favorite liqueurs to add into most margaritas is Grand Gala. So if you're spending a lot of money, get Cointreau. Cointreau's the best. There's also $7 triple sec from like De Kuyper's. It's low alcohol, mostly sugar. It's not terrible. This one is really well priced and tastes more like Cointreau than you would get from just a bar mixer. So I'm going to put that guy in there, and that's all. But it's still actually quite a few ingredients if you actually add them up. But the root of it is still that ratio. I've got 2 parts tequila. I've got 1 part triple sec, and then I've added some citrus and some berries and some sugar. So because I've got the muddled raspberries in here, I'm going to use a strainer because otherwise you're just going to get all those seeds. So you don't want to get those seeds in here. And they start to collect up here. I've got another screen strainer that also I'll use sometimes if I got a lot of muddled items in a drink. So right now I'm using just the screens on the top here, but this is also a great strainer. And you put that in the top and it holds a lot more of the items back. Then you'll see guys do a lot of tapping here because everything starts to collect itself. So this cocktail takes a couple minutes to all come out because there's just a lot of stuff you muddled up in here. There you go.
Wow, cheers.
Great color there. All right, so we got 5 minutes left. I didn't know if anybody.
What's the name of that drink?
You know, I'm not crazy about trying to always name everything.
You had a nice name for the earlier.
I know. I thought about that one. But this is, you know, this is a raspberry riff off of the Margarita. So you got the lime and you got some more brightness from the mint in there. So it's kind of like a mojito and a Margarita collided.
Awesome. This is revealing, and it's amazing to see how prepared you are and an extensive.
Yeah, if we had one more time, I was going to do one more really cool one. So I had one more that I've actually had recently, and then I've been trying to make it, and it's unique because it uses a tea bag.
Oh.
And so you're actually just going to press this under a big ice ball. So let me get this one going if we just got a second here. So
Yeah,
if you think
that seems
about
pretty intriguing.
so Gio, if you think about cooking in the fall and you're making either a chicken or a turkey, you know, you use rosemary and you use honey and you
Yeah.
use lemon. And all of those ingredients go together when you're cooking: rosemary, lemon, honey, and chamomile tea. So those ingredients just all sound fantastic together. I mean, you might as well just make a tea and throw a little honey and a little lemon juice. I mean, that's what people do all the time.
Yeah.
So you're taking those ingredients and now you're making a cocktail out of it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to empty out my shaker here. Oh no, my shaker, my mixer. So this one I like to use a non-smoky. So a non-smoky scotch. So the Laphroaig I showed you is peated. And if anybody doesn't know, and you're sitting there going, I hate scotch, there's two different types of scotch, really, if you split it down the middle and you separate the two types. And you have to know what kinds you've had, whether you say you like it or don't. A Laphroaig is a peated one. What they do is when they bring all the malted barley into the dry room, they actually take bricks of peat moss, they light them on fire like charcoal, and they smoke the room. So all the grain gets embedded with smoke. The rest of the scotches out there don't do that. So if it's not peated, then it doesn't have that smoke flavor. And it actually is very light, very much more mild, has a lot of sweet, fruity flavors to it. So if you haven't tried a non-peated scotch, before you tell me you don't like scotch, I'd want to know that. So I'm going to put 1.5 parts in here because this is going to be a little bit of a lighter flavor one. Actually, this bottle's ready to finish off, so let's just finish it off. And this is a Macallan's Select Oak. I got this on a trip to China at a duty-free. It's a duty-free only version. It's got the Chinese duty sticker on the back. It's not as expensive as like a 15-year Macallan. It's a Select Oak, so they go in and they just pick a certain amount of barrels that it was aged in, and it's a blended selection out of Macallan, which is really great stuff. So I did the scotch. I'm going to do the honey syrup here. I'm going to squeeze the lemon juice. Got a second one here. Now, I'm going to give that a stir. So I've got 3 parts in here. I've got a citrus, I've got a sugar, and I've got the liquor in there. But now the really interesting part that the bar was doing, and they were using Fernet Branca, and this is a very minty, mentholy flavored aperitif, and you just want to use literally a drop. It is so strong and has so much mentholy flavor to it. You just want to literally a little dash. So I'm going to put that in, and what that does is it mixes with tea and makes it almost like it's good for you. You know, if you got that mentholy mint flavor, it feels like it's going to help your throat and help you in a cold night. So then let's see, where did I put my ice cube ball? I know I had one out here. Yeah, so I love these.
Yeah.
It's an ice cube ball maker. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the tea down at the bottom of the glass. So all I did was just drop the tea bag in there. And then I've got this giant ice ball.
Wow.
And so I'm going to drop the giant ice ball on the tea bag.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm just going to pour the cocktail in here. And what's going to happen is the flavor of it's going to change over time. So when you first drink it, you're just getting a lot of the booze and, you know, the scotch flavor and the honey. But then as that sits on the tea bag, it's going to become more diluted as the ice ball melts. And so you can see it's kind of pressed down there at the bottom. So as it dilutes and the tea steeps in it, you're going to get more of the tea flavor as you drink it. So starting off, it's just going to be mostly the Scotch cocktail flavor, and then as you drink it, you're going to get a little bit more of the tea. So this is also a great fall treat.
I like that. It's just the transitioning from one taste to another as you are drinking it. How does it taste?
It's awesome. Maybe a little bit too much honey for my liking.
No, this is really beautiful. Means I know we have some questions coming on. Can any of those spirits go bad over time?
No, spirits don't go bad over time. They might slightly change flavor over the years, but anything that's really 35% and up is not going to change. So a liqueur that's 40%, a whiskey that's 40% or 50%, I have some that are 60%, they will not go bad over time. When you start lowering the alcohol level, though, and you get down to 20% and lower, they do go bad. So if you have a liqueur that is 15%, you basically think of it like wine. Wine is 13%, 14% for a wine. And once you open that bottle, the flavor starts changing. So if any of these ingredients are a mixer and it is in that teen range, they do go bad over time. Now, if they have a lot of sugar, they last longer. But a bottle of vermouth is this one here. Let's see if it even says on this one. It's 16%. So this 16% vermouth is really, in essence, a wine. And I will keep it in the refrigerator, and I'll try and use it within a month.
So if you don't open a higher concentration of alcohol spirits, you said like just like honey, they will never deteriorate? Like, I only thought about honey, but looks like alcohol also would stay its time.
Yeah, as long as it's probably 35% or higher, you're good. It'll last forever. So, I mean, I just recently opened this bottle of rum. You could just keep your cork on and come back 10 years from now, and it would still be drinkable.
That's interesting. Nice.
Yeah, so I've got a couple bottles open. Yeah, I've got a couple bottles open that I probably had open for 4 or 5 years.
Awesome. Once again, Dave, this is fantastic, and thanks again for finding time towards the end of the day, and just really.
Yeah. Any other questions from the group about different
I'm trying to go through it. I think they're still mesmerized or they're completely drunk to ask questions right now. But I think we still have people, and that last question actually was from Sarah. So there's one more question. What's your favorite drink to make for yourself?
Favorite one for myself. I definitely stick, if I'm gonna like really make one for myself, it's gonna be in the whiskey category. So I'll often mix something like a Manhattan. I love lemons. I love vermouth. I love a bourbon or a scotch. So not too far off from what I did here, but this one's unique with the chamomile tea bag in it. So if I'm in that mood, and that's really kind of like a fall winter drink, and then in the summertime, I love different riffs of margaritas and rum. Like a daiquiri is, if you have a good rum, all it is rum, sugar, and lime juice, and you can't go wrong with that.
So here is at least one last question you have to answer before go. David is asking, who is going to drink all three of those drinks? Do you need company?
Yes. And someone said, is anything with chocolate? So let's see if I got, yes. So actually, in the fridge, I have a bottle of Ezra Books, their cream, their bourbon cream. And then here is just creme de cacao, which is just a great chocolate flavored sweetener. And if you mix those together, you can make basically like a bourbon mudslide. Drizzle the edge. So take some bourbon, put the cream and the cacao together. So those three ingredients, again, 2-on-1. So 2 parts of your bourbon, 1 part cream, 1 part creme de cacao, and then drizzle the glass with chocolate syrup, and you're good to go.
I am I'm going to surprise some of my friends next time when they're going to mix some cocktails. Now I have a little bit more dangerous knowledge in this world. So thank you again, Dave, from bringing
Yeah.
out this kind of
Yeah, I
amazing.
think I'm gonna have to get my wife over. I'll give her this one, and I'll
I'll
take
get
the
out the
other
other
two.
two ones as such. So thank you again. This is I think for the people, it's a fantastic day. We started the day with Lanaya on cello. We had Josiah doing like live sketching. In the afternoon, we also had our live demonstration from Chef Angelo. And now I think literally to seal the day, we have this amazing designer cocktails from a designer person. So I think just for these reasons, I want to make one of these conferences once again in not annual, but maybe biannual or something if we are going to have so much fun throughout the day. So once again, thank you everybody for being here. Thank you. I think as Lanaya was saying in the chats, feel free to ask us questions, any more questions that did not get answered. During the panels, we had two, let's say, speaker sessions, one-on-one on ID, one-on-one on startups, and plus 3 different panels. So it was beautiful. I think the speakers did a fantastic job. And let us know what might be the theme you would expect from us going forwards. We will still be doing our virtual design conversations. If you have any speakers to suggest or themes to explore, or you want us to find out speakers for you, let us know. Looking forward to your emails. And thank you again from myself, Dave, Byron, and Lanaya. Over and out. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody. Bye.